Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where I read. I actually just read and then I react while reading, which is very exciting. And then I review whether I liked it or not or how I thought the plot went according to me. And right now we are reading Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. The cliffhangers are kill me. And the thing is that I don't read this book after I upload the chapters and I wait specifically for the time. So even I have to wait like episodes, like you have to. And if you've read it, it is obviously you know what is going to happen. But still, I assume the anticipation must be killing you guys. That, oh my god, I read this. When is this good part going to come, or something like that? So, yes, the anticipation and the participation of all of you is making me thrive in this area. So anyway, let's get started. And before we start, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel because that is how we can connect with each other. And if you turn on the bell icon, then that would be great as well. So let's get started. We are doing chapter 13 and 14 today because 11 and 12 are done. And oh, yes, we are shocked to learn that Pan made a small appearance and that Grover was this close to finally meeting him. But sadly, he wasn't able to. He just felt his presence. So let's get started. Chapter 13. We visit the junkyard of the gods. That doesn't sound good. We rode the bow until sunset, which was about as much as my backside could take. Imagine riding a giant steel brush over a bed of gravel all day. That's about how comfortable bow riding was. I have no idea how many miles we covered, but the mountains faded into the distance and we were replaced by miles of flat, dry land. The grass and scrub brush got sparser until we were galloping. Do boars gallop? And it is not me asking, it is Percy asking. Across the desert. As night fell, the boar came to a stop at a creek bed and snorted. He started drinking the muddy water, then ripped a saguaro cactus out of the ground and chewed it, needles and all. "This is as far as he'll go. We need to get off while he's eating," Grover said. Nobody needed convincing. We slipped off the boar's back while he was busy ripping up cacti. Then we waddled away as best we could with our saddle sores. After its third saguaro and another drink of muddy water, the boar squealed and belched, then whirled around and galloped back towards the east. "It likes the mountains better," I guessed. "I can't blame it. Look," Thalia said. Ahead of us was a two-lane road, half brown over with sand. On the other side of the road was a cluster of buildings too small to be a town, a boarded-up house, a taco shop that looked like it hadn't been opened since before Zoe Nightshade was born, and a white stucco post office with a sign that said Gila Claw, Arizona, hanging crooked above the door. Beyond that was a range of hills, but then I noticed they weren't regular hills. The countryside was way too flat for that. The hills were enormous mounds of old cars, appliances, and other scrap metal. It was a junkyard that seemed to go on forever. "Whoa," I said. "Something tells me we are not going to find a car rental here," Thalia said. She looked at Grover. "I don't suppose you got another wild boar up your sleeve?" Grover was sniffing the wind, looking nervous. He fished out his acorns and threw them into the sand, then played his pipes. They rearranged themselves in a pattern that made no sense to me, but Grover looked concerned. "That's us. That those five nuts right there," he said. "Which one is me?" I asked. "The little deformed one," Zoe suggested. "Oh, shut up." "That cluster right there. Grover said, pointing to the left. That's trouble. A monster? Thalia asked. Grover looked uneasy. I don't smell anything, which doesn't make sense, but the acorns don't lie. Our next challenge, he pointed straight towards the junkyard. With the sunlight almost gone now, the hills of metal looked like something on an alien planet. We decided We decided to camp for night and try the junkyard in the morning. None of us wanted to go dump diving in the dark. Zoe and Bianca produced 5 sleeping bags and foam mattresses out of their backpacks. I don't know how they did that because the packs were tiny, but they must have enchanted to hold more stuff. I'd noticed their bows and quivers were also magic. I never really thought about it, but when the hunters needed them, they just appeared slung over their backs. And when they didn't, they were gone. The night got chilly fast, so Grover and I collected old boards from the ruined house, and Thalia zapped them with an electric shock to start a campfire. Pretty soon, we were about as comfy as you can get in a rundown ghost town in the middle of nowhere. The stars are out, Zoe said. She was right. There were millions of them with no city lights to turn the sky orange. Amazing, Bianca said. I've never actually seen the Milky Way. This is nothing. In the old days, there were more. Whole constellations have disappeared because of human light pollution, Zoe said. You talk like you're not human, I said. Zoe raised an eyebrow. I'm a hunter. I care what happens to the wild places of the world. Can the same be said for thee? For you, Thalia corrected, not thee. But you use you for the beginning of a sentence. And for the end. No thou, no thee. Just you, Thalia said. Zoe threw up her hands in exasperation. I hate this language. It changes too often. Grover sighed. He was still looking up at the stars like he was thinking about the light pollution problem. If only Pan were here, he would set things right. Zoe nodded sadly. Maybe it was the coffee. I was drinking coffee and the wind came. Maybe if I drank more coffee, Grover said. I was pretty sure coffee had nothing to do with that, what happened in Cloudcroft, but I didn't have the heart to tell Grover. I thought about the rubber rat and the paper birds that had suddenly come to life when the wind blew. Grover, do you really think that was Pan? I mean, I know you want it to be. He sent us help, Grover insisted. I don't know how or why, but it was his presence. After this quest is done, I'm going back to New Mexico and drinking a lot of coffee. It's the best lead we've got in 2000 years. I was so close. I didn't answer. I didn't want to squash Grover's hopes. What I want to know, Thalia said, looking at Bianca, is how you destroyed one of the zombies. There are a lot more out there somewhere. We need to figure out how to fight them. Bianca shook her head. I don't know. I just stabbed it and it went in flames. Maybe there's something special about your knife, I said. It's the same as mine. Celestial bronze, yes. But mine did not affect the warriors that way. Maybe you have to hit the skeleton in a certain spot, I said. Bianca looked uncomfortable with everyone paying attention to her. Never mind, Zoe told her. We will find the answer. In the meantime, we should plan our next move. When we get through this junkyard, we must continue west. If we can find a road, we can hitchhike to the nearest city. I think that would be Las Vegas. I was about to protest that Grover and I had had bad experiences in that town, but Bianca beat us to it. No, not there, she said. She looked like she looked really freaked out, like she'd just been dropped off the steep end of a roller coaster. Why? Zoe frowned. Bianca took a shaky breath. I I think we stayed there for a while, Nico and I, when we were traveling, and then I can't remember. Suddenly, I had a really bad thought. I remembered what Bianca had told me about Nico and her staying in a hotel for a while. I met Grover's eyes, and I got the feeling he was thinking the same thing. Bianca, I said, the hotel you stayed at, was it possibly called the Lotus Hotel and Casino? Her eyes widened. How could you know that? Oh, great, I said. Wait, what is the Lotus Casino? Wait, Thalia said. What is the Lotus Casino? A couple of years ago, I said, Grover, Annabeth, and I got trapped there. It's designed so you never want to leave. We stayed for about an hour. When we came out, 5 days had passed. It makes time speed up. No, Bianca said. That is not possible. You said somebody came and got you out. I remember. Yes. What did he look like? What did he say? I I don't remember. Please, I really don't want to talk about this. Zoe sat forward, her eyebrows knitted with concern. You said that Washington, D.C. had changed when you went back last summer. You didn't remember the subway being there. Yes, but Bianca, can you tell me the name of the President of United States right now? Don't be silly, Bianca said. She told us the correct name of the president. And who was the president before that? Roosevelt. Bianca thought for a while. Zoe swallowed. Theodore or Franklin? Franklin, Bianca said. FDR. Like FDR Drive? I asked, because seriously, that's about all I knew about FDR. Bianca, Zoe said. FDR was not the last president. That was about 70 years ago. That's impossible. I I'm not that old, Bianca said. She stared at her hands as if to make sure they weren't wrinkled. Thalia's eyes turned sad. I guess she knew what it was like to get pulled out of time for a while. It's okay, Bianca. The important thing is you and Nico are safe. You made it out. But how? We were only in there for an hour and we barely escaped. How could you have escaped after being there for so long? I said. I told you. A man came and said it was time to leave, and Bianca looked about ready to cry. But who? Why did he do it? Before she could answer, we were hit with a blazing light from down the road. The headlights of a car appeared out of nowhere. I was half hoping it was Apollo come to give us a ride again, but the engine was way too silent for the sun chariot, and besides, it was night time. We grabbed our sleeping bags and got out of the way as a deathly white limousine slid to a stop in front of us. The back door of the limo opened right next to me. Before I could step away, the point of a sword touched my throat. I heard the sound of Zoe and Bianca drawing their bows as the owner of the sword got out of the car. I moved back very slowly. I had to, because he was pushing the point under my chin. He smiled cruelly. Not so fast now, are you, punk? He was a big man with a crew cut, a black leather biker's jacket, black jeans, a skin-tight white vest, and combat boots. Oh, we all know who that one is. Wraparound shades hid his eyes, but I knew what was behind those glasses. Hollow sockets filled with flames. Ares, I growled. The war god glanced at my friends. At ease, people. He snapped his fingers and the weapons fell to the ground. This is a friendly meeting. He ducked the point of his blade a little further under my chin. Of course, I'd like to take your head for a trophy, but someone wants to see you. And I never behead my enemies in front of a lady. What lady? Thalia asked. Ares looked over at her. Well, well, I heard you were back. He lowered his sword and pushed me away. Thalia, daughter of Zeus, Ares mused. You're not hanging out with very good company. What's your business, Ares? She said. Who's in the car? Ares smiled, enjoying the attention. Oh, I doubt she wants to meet the rest of you, particularly not them. He jutted his chin towards Bianca and Zoe. Why don't you all go get some tacos while you wait? Only take Percy a few minutes. We will not leave him alone with thee, Lord Ares, Zoe said. Besides, Grover managed, the taco place is closed. Ares snapped his fingers again. The lights inside the taqueria suddenly blazed to life. The boards flew off the door and the closed sign flipped to open. You were saying, good boy? Go on, I told my friends. I'll handle this. I tried to sound more confident than I felt. I don't think Ares was fooled. You heard the boy. He's big and strong. He's got things under control, Ares said. My friends reluctantly headed over to the taco restaurant. Ares regarded me with loathing, then opened the limousine door like a chauffeur. Get inside, punk, and mind your manners. She's not as forgiving of rudeness as I am. When I saw her, my jaw dropped. I forgot my name. I forgot where I was. I forgot how to speak in complete sentences. She was wearing a red satin dress, and her hair was curled in a cascade of ringlets. Her face was the most beautiful I'd ever seen. Perfect makeup, dazzling eyes, a smile that would lit up the dark side of the moon. Thinking back on it, I can't tell you who she looked like, or even what color her hair or her eyes were. Pick the most beautiful actress you can think of. The goddess was 10 times more beautiful than that. Pick your favorite hair color, eye color, whatever. The goddess had that. When she smiled at me, just for a moment, she looked a little like Annabeth. Then, like this television actress I used to have a crush on in fifth grade, then, well, you get the idea. Ah, there you are, Percy, the goddess said. I am Aphrodite. I slipped into the seat across from her and said something like, um, She smiled. Aren't you sweet? Hold this, please. She handed me a polished mirror, the size of a dinner plate, and had me hold it up for her. She leaned forward and dabbed at her lipstick, though I couldn't see anything wrong with it. Do you know why you're here? She asked. I wanted to respond. Why couldn't I form a complete sentence? She was only a lady, a seriously beautiful lady, with eyes like pools of spring water. Whoa. I pinched my own arm hard. I I don't know. I managed. Oh dear. Still in denial. Outside the car, I could hear Aries chuckling. I had a feeling he could hear every word we said. The idea of him being out there made me angry. That helped clear my mind. I don't know what you're talking about. Well then, why are you on this quest? Artemis has been captured. Aphrodite rolled her eyes. Oh, Artemis, please. Talk about a hopeless case. I mean, if they were going to kidnap a goddess, she should be breathtakingly beautiful, don't you think? I pity the poor dears who have to imprison Artemis. Boring. But she was chasing a monster, I protested. A really, really bad monster. We have to find it. Aphrodite made me hold the mirror a little higher. She seemed to have found a microscopic problem at the corner of her eye and dabbed at her mascara. Always some monster. But my dear Percy, that is why the others are on this quest. I'm more interested in you. My heart pounded. I didn't want to answer, but her eyes drew an answer right out of my mouth. Annabeth is in trouble. Aphrodite beamed. Exactly. I have to help her, I said. I've been having these dreams. Ah, you even dream about her. That's so cute. No, I mean, that's not what I meant. She made a sound. Percy, I'm on your side. I'm the reason you're here after all. What? I stared at her. The poisoned t-shirt the Stoll brothers gave Phoebe, she said. Did you think that was an accident? Sending Blackjack to helping you sneak out of the camp? You did that? Of course. Because really, how boring these hunters are. A quest for some monster, blah blah blah. Saving Artemis. Let us say stay lost, I say. But a quest for true love. Wait a second, I never said, oh my dear. You don't need to say it. You do know Annabeth was close to joining the hunters, don't you? I blushed. I wasn't sure she was about to throw her life away. And you, my dear, you can save her from that. It's so romantic. Uh, oh, put the mirror down. I look fine, Aphrodite ordered. I hadn't realized I was still holding it, but as soon as I put it down, I noticed my arms were sore. Now listen, Percy, Aphrodite said. The hunters are your enemies. Forget them and Artemis and the monster. That's not important. You just concentrate on finding and saving Annabeth. Do you know where she is? Aphrodite waved her hand irritably. No, no. I leave the details to you. But it's been ages since we've had a good tragic love story. Whoa. First of all, I never said anything about love. And second, what's up with tragic? Love conquers all, Aphrodite promised. Look at Helen and Paris. Did they let anything come between them? Didn't they start Trojan War and get thousands of people killed? That's not the point. Follow your heart. But I don't know where it's going. My heart, I mean. She smiled sympathetically. She was she really was beautiful. And not just because she smiled sympathetically. She really was beautiful. And not just because she had a pretty face or anything. She believed in love so much it was impossible not to feel giddy when she talked about it. Not knowing is half the fun, Aphrodite said. Exquisitely painful, isn't it? Not being sure who you love and who loves you. Oh, you kids, it's so cute, I'm going to cry. No, no, don't do that, I said. Oh, and don't worry, she said. I'm not going to let this be easy and boring for you. No, I have some wonderful surprises in store. Anguish, indecision. Oh, you just wait. That's really okay. Don't go to any trouble, I told her. You're so cute. I wish all my daughters could break the heart of a boy as nice as you. Aphrodite's eyes were tearing up. Now, you'd better go, and do be careful in my husband's territory, Percy. Don't take anything. He's awfully fussy about his trinkets and trash. What? You mean Hephaestus? But the car door opened, and Ares grabbed my shoulder, pulling me out of the car and back into the desert night. My audience with the goddess of love was over. You're lucky, punk. You pushed me away from the limo. Be grateful. For what? That we're being so nice. If it was up to me, so why haven't you killed me? I shot back. It was a stupid thing to say to the god of war, but being around him always made me feel angry and reckless. Ares nodded like I'd finally said something intelligent. I'd love to kill you, seriously. But see, I got a situation. Word on Olympus is that you might start the biggest war in history. We can't risk messing that up. Besides, Aphrodite thinks you're some kind of soap opera star or something. I kill you, that makes me look bad with her. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten my promise. Someday soon, kid, real soon, you're going to raise your sword to fight, and you're going to remember the wrath of Ares. Why wait? I balled my fists. I beat you once. How's that ankle healing up? He grinned crookedly. Not bad, punk. But you got nothing on the master of taunts. I'll start the fight when I'm good and ready. Until then, get lost. He snapped his finger and the world did a 360 spinning in a cloud of red dust. I fell to the ground. When I stood up again, the limousine was gone. The road, the taco restaurant, the whole town of Gilla Claw was gone. My friends and I were standing in the middle of junkyard, mountains of scraped metal stretched out in every direction. What did she want from with you? Bianca asked once I told them about Aphrodite. Oh, not sure, I lied. She said to be careful in her husband's junkyard. She said not to pick anything up. Zoe narrowed her eyes. The goddess of love would not make a special trip to tell that. Be careful, Percy. Aphrodite has led many heroes astray. For once I agree with Zoe. You can't trust Aphrodite, Thalia said. Grover was looking at me funny. Being empathetic and all, he could usually read my emotions. And I got the feeling he knew exactly what Aphrodite had talked to me about. So, I said, anxious to change the subject. How do we get out of here? That way. That is west, Zoe said. How can you tell? In the light of the full moon, I was surprised how well I could see her roll her eyes at me. Ursa Major is in the north, which means that must be west. She pointed west, then at the northern constellation, which was hard to make out because there were so many other stars. Oh, yeah, the bear thing. Zoe looked offended. Show some respect. It was a fine bear, a worthy opponent. You act like it was real. Guys, look! Grover broke in. We'd reached the crest of a junk mountain. Piles of metal objects glinted in the moonlight. Broken heads of bronze horses, metal legs from human statues, smashed chariots, tons of shields and swords and other weapons, along with more modern stuff like cars that gleamed gold and silver, refrigerators, washing machines, and computer monitors. Whoa, that stuff, some of it looks real gold, Bianca said. It is, Thalia said grimly. Like Percy said, don't touch anything. This is the junkyard of the gods. Junk? Grover picked up a beautiful crown made of gold, silver, and jewels. It was broken on one side, as if it had been split by an axe. You call this junk? He bit off a point and began to chew. It's delicious. Thalia swatted the crown out of his hands. I'm serious. Look, Bianca said. She raced down the hill, tripping over bronze coils and gold plates. She picked up a bow that glowed silver in moonlight. A hunter's bow. She yelped in surprise as the bow began to shrink and became a hair clip shaped like a crescent moon. It's just like Percy's sword. Zo- Zoe's face was grim. Leave it, Bianca, but it is here for a reason. Anything thrown away in this junkyard must stay in this yard. It is defective or cursed. Bianca reluctantly set the hair clip down. I don't like this place, Thalia said. She gripped the shaft of her spear. You think we're going to get attacked by a killer refrigerators? I asked. She gave me a hard look. Zoe is right, Percy. Things get thrown away here for a reason. Now come on, let's get across the yard. That's the second time you've agreed with Zoe, I muttered, but Thalia ignored me. That's the second time you've agreed with Zoe. I muttered, but Thalia ignored me. We started picking up our way through hills and valleys of junk. The stuff seemed to go on forever. If it hadn't been for Ursa Major, we would have got lost. All the hills pretty much looked the same. I'd like to say we left the stuff alone, but there was too much cool junk not to check out some of it. I found an electric guitar shaped like Apollo's lyre. That was so sweet, I had to pick it up. Grover found a broken tree made out of metal. It had been chopped to pieces, but some of the branches still had golden birds on them, and they whirred around when Grover picked them up, trying to flap their wings. Finally, we saw the edge of the junkyard about half a mile ahead of us, the lights of highways stretching through the desert. But between us and the road, what is that? Bianca gasped. Ahead of us was a hill of much bigger and longer than others. It was like a metal mesa, the length of a football field and as tall as goalposts. At one end of the mesa was a row of 10 thick metal columns wedged tightly together. Bianca frowned. They looked like toes, Grover said. Bianca nodded. Really, really large toes. Zoe and Thalia exchanged nervous looks. Let's go around. Far around, Thalia said. But the road is right over there. Quicker to climb over, I protested. Ping! Thalia hefted her spear and Zoe drew her bow, but then I realized it was only Grover. He had thrown a piece of scrap metal at the toe and hit one, making a deep echo as if the column were hollow. Why'd you do that? Zoe demanded. Grover cringed. I don't know. I don't like fake feet. Come on, Thalia looked at me. Around. I didn't argue. The toes were starting to freak me out too. I mean, who sculpts 3-meter tall metal toes and stick them in a junkyard? After several minutes of walking, we finally stepped onto highway, an abandoned but well-lit stretch of black tarmac. We made it out. Thank the gods, Zoe said. But apparently the gods didn't want to be thanked. At the moment I heard a sound like 1,000 trash compactors crushing metal. I whirled around behind us. The scrap mountain was boiling, rising up. The 10 toes tilted over and I realized why they looked like toes. They were toes. The thing that rose up from the metal was a bronze giant in full Greek battle armor. He was impossibly tall, a skyscraper with legs and arms. He gleamed wickedly in the moonlight. He looked down at us and his face was deformed. The left side was partially melted off. His joints creaked with rust, and across his armored chest, written in thick dust by some giant finger, were the words, "Wash me." Talos, Zoe gasped. Who's Talos? I stuttered. One of Hephaestus's creations, Thalia said. But that can't be the original. It's too small. A prototype, maybe? A defective model. The metal giant didn't like the word defective. He moved one hand to his sword belt and drew his weapon. The sound of it coming out of its sheath was horrible. Metal screeching against metal. The blade was 30 meters long. Easy. It looked rusty and dull, but I didn't figure that mattered. Getting hit with that thing would be like getting hit with a battleship. Someone took something. Who took something? She stared accusingly at me. I shook my hand. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a thief. Bianca didn't say anything. I could swear she looked guilty, but I didn't have much time to think about it. Because the giant defective Talos took one step towards us, closing half the distance and making the ground shake. Run! Grover yelled. Great advice. Except it was hopeless. At a leisurely stroll, this thing could outdistance us easily. We split up, the way we'd done with the Neiman lion. Thalia drew her shield and held it up as she ran down the highway. The giant swung his sword and took out a row of power lines, which exploded in sparks and scattered across Thalia's path. Zoe's arrows whistled towards Creature's face but chattered harmlessly against the metal. Grover brayed like a baby goat and went climbing up a mountain of metal. Bianca and I ended up next to each other, hiding behind a broken chariot. You took something. That bow, I said. No, she said, but her voice quivering. Give it back. Throw it down, I said. I didn't take the bow. Besides, it's too late. What did you take? Be- Before she could answer, I heard a massive creaking noise and a shadow blotted out the sky. Move! I tore down the hill, Bianca right behind me, as the giant's foot smashed a crater in the ground where we'd been hiding. Hey, Talos! Grover yelled, but the monster raised his sword, looking down at Bianca and me. Grover played a quick melody on his pipes. Over at the highway, the downed power lines began to dance. I understood what Grover was going to do split second before it happened. One of the poles with power lines still attached flew towards Talos's back leg and wrapped around his calf. The line sparked and sent a jolt of electricity up the giant's backside. Talos whirled around, creaking and sparking. Grover had brought us a few seconds. Come on, I told Bianca, but she stayed frozen. From her pocket, she brought out a small metal figurine, a statue of a god. It, it was for Nico. It was the only statue he didn't have. How can you think of mytho magic at a time like this? I said. There were tears in her eyes. Throw it down. Maybe the giant will leave us alone. She dropped it reluctantly, but nothing happened. The giant kept coming after Grover. It stabbed its sword into a junk hill, missing Grover by a meter or so, but scrap metal made an avalanche over him, and then I couldn't see him anymore. No! Thalia yelled and pointed her spear, and a blue arc of lightning shot out, hitting the monster in his rusty knee, which buckled. The giant collapsed, but immediately started to rise again. It was hard to tell if it could feel anything. There weren't any emotion in its half-melted face, but I got the sense that it was about as ticked off as a 20-story tall metal warrior could be. He raised his foot to stomp, and I saw that his sole was shredded like the bottom of a trainer. There was a hole in his heel, like a large manhole, and there were red words painted around it, which deciphered only after the foot came down, for maintenance only. Crazy idea time, I said. Bianca looked at me nervously. Anything. I told her about the maintenance hatch. There may be a way to control things. Switches or something. I'm going to get inside. How? You'll have to stand under its foot. You'll be crushed, distracted. I'll just have to time it right. No, I'll go. Bianca's jaw tightened. You can't. You're new at this. You'll die. It's my fault the monster came after us. It's my responsibility. Here. She picked the little god statue and pressed it into my hand. If anything happens, give that to Nico. Tell him Tell him I'm sorry. Bianca, no! But she wasn't waiting for me. She charged at the monster's left foot. Thalia had its attention for a moment. She'd learned that the giant was big and but slow. If you could stay close to it and not get smashed, you could run around it and stay alive. At least it was working so far. Bianca got right next to Giant's foot, trying to balance herself on the metal scraps that swayed and shifted with his weight. Zoe yelled, What are you doing? Get it to raise its foot, she said. Zoe shot an arrow towards the monster's face and it flew straight into one nostril. The giant straightened and shook its head. Hey, junk boy, down here, I yelled. I ran up to its big toe and stabbed it with riptide. The magic blade cut a gash in the bronze. Unfortunately, my plan worked. Talos looked down at me and raised his foot to squash me like a bug. I didn't see what Bianca was doing. I had to turn and run. The foot came down right behind me. I was knocked into the air. I hit something hard and sat up dazed. I'd been thrown into an Olympus Air refrigerator. The monster was about to finish me off, but Grover somehow dug himself out of the junk pile. He played his pipes frantically, and his music sent another power line pole whacking against Talos's thigh. The monster turned. Grover should have run, but he must have been too exhausted from the effort of so much magic. He took 2 steps, fell, and didn't get back up. Grover! Thalia and I ran towards him, but I knew we'd be too late. The monster raised his sword to smash Grover, then he froze. Talos cocked his head to one side, like he was hearing strange new music. He started moving its arms and legs in weird ways, doing funky chicken. Then he made a fist and punched himself in the face. Go, Bianca! I yelled. Zoe looked horrified. She's inside? The monster staggered around, and I realized we were still in danger. Thalia and I grabbed Grover and ran with him towards the highway. Zoe was already ahead of us. She yelled, How will Bianca get out? The giant hit itself in the head again and dropped his sword. A shudder ran through his whole body, and he staggered towards the power lines. Look out! But it was too late. The giant's anchor snared the lines, and blue flickers of electricity shot up his body. I hoped the inside was insulated. I had no idea what was going on in there. The giant careened back into the junkyard, and his right hand fell off, landing in the scrap metal with a horrible clang. His left arm came loose too. He was falling apart at the joints. Talos began to run. Wait! Zoe yelled. We ran after him, but there was no way we could keep up. Pieces of robot kept falling off, getting in our way. The giant crumbled from top down, his head, pieces of his chest, and finally his torso and legs collapsed. When we reached the wreckage, we searched frantically, yelling Bianca's name. We crawled around in the vast hollow chest, pieces and legs and the torso. We searched until the sun started to rise, but no luck. Zoe sat down and wept. I was stunned to see her cry. Thalia yelled in rage and impaled her sword in the giant's smashed face. We can keep searching. It's light now. We'll find her. I said. No, we won't. It happened just as it was supposed to be. Grover said miserably. What are you talking about? I demanded. He looked up at me with big watery eyes. The prophecy. One shall be lost in the land without rain. Why hadn't I seen it? Why had I let her go instead of me? Here we were in the desert, and Bianca D'Angelo was gone.